When my girlfriend Michelle introduced me to her teenage son, Jack, I knew it wouldn't be easy. But things took an unexpected turn when Jack, thinking I didn't understand, spoke to Michelle in French, revealing a secret she'd been hiding, a revelation that could change everything between us. I knew the moment was coming, but nothing could have prepared me for how it actually went down. It was a Sunday afternoon, and the summer sun streamed through the kitchen windows, casting warm light over the breakfast nook where Michelle and I sat. My heart thudded in my chest, anticipation mixed with a healthy dose of anxiety. Michelle had finally decided it was time for me to meet her son, Jack. She'd been hesitant, and I understood why. Jack is a teenage boy who is protective of his mom and wary of a new man in her life. Yeah, I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I was ready, or so I thought. When Jack walked in, it was like a cold breeze swept through the room. The kid barely looked at me, his eyes glued to his phone. He was tall for 15, with a mop of dark hair that kept falling into his eyes. I tried to smile, to break the ice, but it felt like I was grinning into a void. "So, Jack," I said, forcing a bit of cheer into my voice, "your mom's told me a lot about you. It's great to finally meet." He shrugged, not bothering to look up. "Yeah, sure." Michelle shot me an apologetic glance, her face a mixture of hope and anxiety. She wanted this to go well. Hell, we both did. But Jack wasn't having it. Then, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, Jack started speaking to Michelle in French. I froze. He wasn't trying to show off. It was worse than that. He didn't want me to understand what he was saying, but I did. You see, I've hated French since I was 6 years old. My mom had this obsession with me learning it, something about expanding horizons or whatever. And as much as I tried to resist, I eventually picked it up. I never thought I'd actually use it, but here we were. I listened in shock as Jack urged Michelle to stop messing with my mind, adding that I deserved to know what I was getting into. I felt the room closing in on me, the words hanging in the air like a thick fog. My mind raced, piecing together the fragments of their conversation, and suddenly, everything clicked into place. There was something they weren't telling me, something big. But I could never have imagined what it was. When I heard Jack say Michelle was going to be a mother of 3, I couldn't pretend I wasn't listening in any longer. "A mother of 3?" I spat out. "What's that supposed to mean?" Both Jack and Michelle turned to stare at me with wide eyes. "You speak French?" Jack gasped. "I'm sorry," Michelle whispered, hanging her head. "I didn't mean to keep this from you. I was just scared." "Scared of what?" I demanded, my pulse pounding in my ears. "Scared you'd leave," she said, her voice breaking. "Before I met you, I started the adoption process. 2 kids. I've always wanted to adopt, but it took years. And I didn't think it would ever happen. But now, I'm getting them in a week." The world tilted, my breath catching in my throat. "A week?" My voice barely came out, a whisper. "You're going to be a mom of 3 in a week?" Michelle nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry, Tom. I should have told you, but I was afraid you'd walk away." Jack, more composed now, looked at me with an earnestness that caught me off guard. "Mom didn't mean to lie. She just didn't want to lose you. And I didn't want to get attached if you were going to bail." His words hit me like a ton of bricks, and I had to take a breath to steady myself. I glanced at Michelle, her eyes filled with hope and fear, and then back at Jack. This kid, who I thought hated my guts, was just scared of losing something before he even had a chance to hold on to it. But what about me? My heart was pounding in my chest, my mind racing a mile a minute. I'd been through hell when I lost my wife, and just when I thought I was finding my footing again, this curveball came out of nowhere. 3 kids. 3. Not just one sullen teenager, but also 2 little lives that would suddenly be part of mine if I stayed. Tom? Michelle's voice was barely above a whisper, her fingers nervously twisting the edge of her sweater. I know this is a lot. I should have told you sooner, but I was so afraid you'd leave. Leave. The word hung in the air, heavy and full of implications. I'd practically lived my life on the run after the accident, distancing myself from anyone who tried to get too close. But now, here I was, on the brink of something that could change everything. I get it, Michelle, I finally said, my voice rougher than intended. I really do. But this is huge. I've been trying to rebuild my life, one piece at a time, and now you're telling me I'm supposed to just… what? Jump into fatherhood? Michelle flinched, and I immediately regretted the harshness in my tone. Jack looked like he wanted to say something, but instead, he just clenched his jaw and stared at the floor. I'm not asking you to be their father right away, Michelle said, her voice trembling. I'm just asking you to give this a chance. I know it's complicated and messy, but we could be a family, Tom. You, me, Jack, and the kids. We could make this work. Could we? The question bounced around in my head, echoing off the memories of the life I'd lost and the life I was scared to start living again. Could I really step into this role, or was I setting myself up for another heartbreak, another failure? I'm scared too, you know, Jack suddenly spoke up, his voice cracking just a little. I've seen Mom get hurt before, and I didn't want to see it happen again. But if you stay, if you're really in this, I think we could be okay. His words, simple and raw, hit me right in the gut. Jack wasn't just a sullen teenager. He was a kid who'd seen too much and was desperately trying to protect his mom and himself. And yet he was offering me a chance to be part of their world, to help build something new out of the broken pieces. I took a deep breath, my thoughts swirling like a storm. I had a choice to make: walk away and keep my life simple, or dive headfirst into the unknown. All right, I said finally. I'll stay. But if we're going to make this work, we need to be honest with each other, no matter how hard it gets. Michelle's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of relief. I promise, Tom, no more secrets. We'll do this together. The days that followed were a whirlwind as Michelle, Jack, and I prepared for the 2 new kids. Finally, the day came. The adoption agency brought 7-year-old Sarah and 9-year-old Lucas into our home. They were scared, shy, and completely overwhelmed, clinging to each other as they stood in the doorway. My heart ached for them, these 2 little souls who had already been through so much. Hey there, I said softly, kneeling down to their level. I'm Tom, this is Michelle, and you've already met Jack. We're really happy you're here. It's okay, Michelle added, her voice warm and soothing. We're here for you, and we're going to take care of you. We're a family now. The word family hung in the air, and I realized it wasn't just a word anymore. It was a promise. It wasn't going to be easy, but as I looked at the tentative smiles starting to form on Sarah and Lucas's faces, I knew it was worth it. We spent the rest of the day getting to know each other, the house filled with a mix of nervous laughter and quiet moments. By dinner time, things had settled a bit. We all sat around the table, Michelle, Jack, Sarah, Lucas, and me, a strange but wonderful feeling of completeness settling over us. This was it, the start of something new, something beautiful and complicated and messy. But it was ours, and I was ready to be a part of it. Later that night, after the kids were tucked into bed, I found myself standing in the hallway, listening to the quiet hum of the house. Michelle came up beside me, slipping her hand into mine. We didn't need to say anything. The silence was enough. We had taken the first steps on this journey, and there was no turning back. But for the first time in a long time, that didn't scare me. It felt right. And as I stood there, holding Michelle's hand, I realized I was exactly where I was meant to be.